to the Buffalo Sports Conversation Room. Well, it's great to be back after a couple weeks off. I'm your host, Jamie Malloy, ready to get back talking some football with you all and my co-host, Joe Dallio. So, without any further delay, let's bring on Joe. Here's Joe. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
There I am. It's going great. How you doing? Great to be back here.
Indeed. So what did you think? I'm back from Florida, obviously. My vacation went well and everything. Tough loss for the Bills this past Thursday night. But I do want to talk about how I think the one positive note is they did struggle in the first half defensively.
Mm-hmm.
However, though, I do think they shut them down in the second half. So I think the defense is going to get fixed because I think they made some adjustments, but the offensive line's got to get better protecting Josh Allen. I was even amazed it still came down to the Bills having a potential game-winning drive. I don't even think it should have even came down to that. The Bills were lucky it even did come down to that.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And again, I got to remember how to do this. We've been gone for 2 weeks. It seems like 2 years here. So I'm trying to get my bearings back on this. But yeah, part of it surprises me and part of it doesn't. I was going to share this, when we officially talked about the game. But, I was looking at the stats of this game and the Bills dominated in pretty much every statistical category, at least offensively. So that doesn't surprise me that the Bills were in this game and had a chance to win.
Even though it didn't feel like, sorry, Joe, but even though it didn't feel like that they dominated them in every statistical category, it didn't feel like that at times, though.
Oh, it certainly didn't. And I was actually surprised when I was looking at the information for this game. It actually did surprise me because I totally agree. I get the feeling that if you were to ask somebody, hey, which team dominated this game? I think we both would have said the Texans, right? Certainly on the defensive side of the ball, that's the case. And we'll talk further about that shortly. But like you said, the Bills started off slowly defensively and then, did bear down. And it was the defense, I think, that gave themselves a chance to win and didn't let this game get out of hand. Yeah. But again, looking at the stats, it was, pretty surprising to me. That it ended up that way. I mean, if we're looking at it now, what did I write down? The Bills outgained them 326 yards to 261. So that's a 60-yard difference. And, Josh Allen outpassed, their quarterback. So, and James Cook, had over 100 yards. So he outgained their running backs. Obviously when you got 3 turnovers to 0, that certainly makes a big difference in the game. And, here's a big difference that we have too. 8 sacks for the Houston Texans defense here. And again, I mean, the Bills are known for their excellent offensive line. Now, again, you mentioned backstage the fact that it's the number 1 defense in the NFL with the Houston Texans here. But still being out-sacked 8-0, that certainly doesn't bode well in trying to win football games.
No, it doesn't, but it's also a food for thought. But it's also a fact that they are the number 1 defense, and you are what they say you are in statistical categories, just like your record and everything. But yeah, so are you actually ready to talk about our game, the rest about it, Joe? The game of the week.
Do we have to? No, I'm just kidding. Yes, of course.
We do. Anyway, we have this week the Thursday night game between the 7-3 Buffalo Bills taking on the 5-5 Houston Texans at NRG Stadium. Here we go, folks. With 9:19 left in the first quarter, James Cook ran it in for a 45-yard touchdown on a 10-play, 81-yard drive, but Matt Prater missed the extra point, giving the Bills the lead 6-0. With 4:36 left in the first quarter, Kai Fairbairn kicked a 24-yard field goal to cut the lead to 6-3 Buffalo. With 9:39 left in the second quarter, Prater kicked a 44-yard field goal, increasing the Bills' lead to 9-3, which is the possession on a steering wheel when you're driving.
That you're supposed to have anyway.
Yep. Yep. With 3:51 left in the second quarter, Captain Christian Kirk ran it in for a 2-yard touchdown on a 12-play, 77-yard drive to take the lead 10-9. With 1:56 left in the second quarter, Fairbairn kicked his second field goal of the night, this time for 43 yards, bringing the score to 13-9. Ray Davis returned the following kickoff for the Texans, or for the Bills, for 97 yards, scoring to give the Bills the lead back 16-13. But with 9 seconds left in the half, Jaden Higgins scored on an 8-yard touchdown run to close out halftime, with the Texans leading 20-16. With 21 seconds in the third, Fairbairn kicked his third field goal of the game, this time for 26 yards, increasing their lead to 23-16. With 5:48 left in the fourth quarter, Prater kicked a 30-yard field goal to cut the lead to 23-19. And then a failed fourth down with an interception and a pass interference on the Bills. That's how the score would end. So, Joe, even though the offense struggled, the Bills were going up against the number one defense in the NFL. And I feel like this is very redundant and annoying, but it's kind of like how the Miami Dolphins, they feel like they weren't prepared enough. Do you think they weren't prepared enough in this game too?
Yeah, partially I do, actually. I think they could have, knowing that this is the best defense in the league, I think they could have been more prepared and maybe more innovative a little bit. Now, as much as I'm down on the Bills for this, and again, I think it was definitely a winnable game for them, I think you got to look at the other side too. Again, we keep saying that this is the number one defense in the league. They certainly played like it. And, perhaps the Bills were trying to be innovative and creative and trying to come up with different ways here. And, they were just stopped. And just, the Texans didn't let that happen. So we got to look at it from that side too. And again, the top defense playing like the top defense. So combination of everything. I mean, I remember I expected the Bills to lose this game in the beginning of the year. Again, I picked them as one of the losses. Now, we didn't make predictions, because we were off the air here for the last couple of weeks. But again, this was one of the games where I predicted them to lose. The Texans are a different team at home, and they're playing their best football of the season right now. So it's another reason that I'm not that surprised that they won this game. But certainly, again, still not to take anything away from the Texans, but certainly a beatable opponent, especially for a team at the level of the Bills. So it's still a little bit of a disappointing loss. And I think that it's one that they could have had. And, there was certain things in certain areas of the game where the Bills did not play as well as they could have. Again, 3 turnovers certainly is not going to help your cause, especially a team that prides itself on not turning over the ball, and a team that's won games consistently because they consistently don't turn over the ball. So the fact that they've been just in a very, Christmas isn't for a month away here, but the Bills have been in a very generous spirit with the football here for the last few games, and gladly giving it away. So that's something that obviously they're going to have to get back to being a positive as far as the turnover battle is concerned here. But again, a winnable game for the Bills. But I'll give credit where it's due, and credit Houston. Now I'll apologize in advance too if you hear some girl screams here. They're having a big Dancing with the Stars party upstairs. So some guests over. Checking that out. So you may hear some reactions, and, that's what that's all about. But, some fun stuff. Like I said, give credit to the Texans for winning a game and keeping their, chances for the playoffs intact.
It's okay, Joe. I mean, tell what are your daughters what are your daughters that she should want Robert and Whitney to win, because that's who I want. Even though this isn't a Dancing with the Stars podcast, but be sure to tell her that.
All right, we heard
That's
it
who I
here,
want.
so I'll tell them. Who is it now?
Robert Irwin and Whitney Carson.
All right, cool. Now, one of my daughters, the one that's 4 days away from you as far as birthday, watched it live at Dancing with the Stars last week. So there's some interesting trivia in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. You may recognize Robert's last name. You know who his late father was, right? The crocodile hunter, Steve Irwin.
Yeah. And they have talked about talked about him. But all right, let's get back to
his sister Bindi won it with Derek and back in 2015 too, but we'll talk about that later though. Anyway.
Yeah, let's get back to football with the Stars here.
Okay. Anyway, thank God we didn't lose any viewers for that. We're still at 3. So, anyway, where were we again? Oh yeah, that's right. And what did you think about the offensive line letting Allen getting sacked a record 8 times?
Obviously, not a good performance. People are asking me about that. What's the deal with the Bills' offensive line? They've played so long, so well for so long. And I thought about it. I said, I don't want to say this prematurely, but is like age starting to catch up with these guys a little bit? Is just fatigue? It's a tough question to answer, but again, that they are, getting a little bit older here. And
certainly not continuity. The continuity's still there. It's the same people,
Yeah.
I
mean, not everybody. You got some young guys like Torrance and people like that in there that, is only, what is he, in his 3rd year, and he's progressing and playing well generally. But yeah, that's something obviously they're going to have to work on. Now, again, this is a superior defensive line that they went up against, but still, no matter, I don't care if it's the 85 Bears, you shouldn't be giving up 8 sacks a game, and you're certainly not going to win games that way.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think their number one improvement the Bills should be working on this week ahead of the Pittsburgh game? I mean, I think I know what mine is.
Well, mine is certainly just, again, don't turn the ball over. This is a team you should beat. And, again, not taking anything away from the Steelers. But to me, that's guideline number 1. Again, they've prided themselves for so long on positive turnover ratios and things like that and not giving the ball away. And now all of a sudden it's a major issue. I think as soon as they change that and get back to the way they were, you're going to see this Bills offense operating the way that, that it's been so consistently. So, there's several things, obviously, the offensive line and things like that, but let's not turn the ball over. That's guideline number 1. Is that, were you thinking along those same lines, or you got something else?
That too, but we got to learn how to deal with the league's first 6'7", 311-pound tight end in Darnell Washington. What do you what defender are we going to put on him? Because our linebackers are certainly athletic, but they're smaller and they're not as big as him. So I wonder what we're going to do.
Yeah, it is hard to defend, certainly somebody in that case, somebody that's 6'7", right? It's certainly hard to defend, but definitely going to be somebody that they have to key on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think he might be the first tight end to be 300 plus pounds maybe in the league.
I can't remember any, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Because when they drafted him, he was 6'7", 264, and they bulked him up to that big.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Joe, should we now you want to give our predictions for the Week 13 game against the Steelers?
I definitely.
You want to go first?
Who am I going first?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is one that I'm actually going to change my mind on, because I believe when we did our preseason predictions, this is another game I had the Bills losing. I think this was going to be the fourth loss that I had. So at this point, I had them only with 3 losses, and then I had them losing this game here to get to 4. I only had them losing 5 all year, and that still might happen. Who knows if they get on a streak? But I'm actually going to change my mind from my original prediction that I had here. So I am going to say it's going to be very close, but I'm going to go Bills 24, Steelers 21.
Yep, I think this is going to be a heavyweight fight between 2 blue-collar teams that play, blue-collar, tough football, and that represents, their cities well. That represents Buffalo and Pittsburgh, hardworking, gritty people. And I think the Bills win this one. I think they're going to win. I got 35-30.
Oh, wow. So you got some scoring going on here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So now moving on to the Sunday 1:00 p.m. matchup with the new 2-9 New York Giants taking on the 6-4 Detroit Lions at Ford Field. With 12:56 left in the first, Wan'Dale Robinson caught a 39-yard pass from Jameis Winston to give the G-Men the lead, 7-0. As time expired in the first quarter, Young Ho Koo kicked a 21-yard field goal to bring the score to 10-0 Giants. With 11:41 left in the second quarter, Amon-Ra St. Brown, everybody's favorite football darling now, caught an 11-yard pass from Jared Goff to cut the lead to 10-7. With 8:21 left in the second quarter, former Buffalo Bill turned New York Giant and former New York Giant, now once again a New York Giant, a.k.a. people call him a pro's pro, Isaiah Hodgins, caught a 12-yard pass from Winston, increasing the Giants' lead to 17-7. With 2:16 left in the second quarter, Jahmyr Gibbs caught a 3-yard pass from Goff, cutting the lead to 17-14. With 38 seconds left in the second quarter, Ho Koo kicked his second field goal of the game, this time for 44 yards, increasing the Giants' lead to 20-14. As time expired in the half, Jake Bates hit a 37-yard field goal to end the half with the score of 20-17 Giants. There was no scoring in the third quarter. With 12:16 left in the fourth quarter, Gunnar Olszewski caught a 33-yard pass from Winston, bringing the Giants' lead to 27-17. But, Joe, what are the Giants famous for when they get up by 10? With 10:50 left in the fourth, Gibbs ran the ball in for a 49-yard touchdown to cut the lead to 27-24. The Lions, with 29 seconds left, Bates from the UFL, forgot to mention that, Michigan Panthers, kicked a 59-yard field goal to send the game into overtime, 27-all. That was a tribute to the late, great Rick Jeanneret. Rest easy, buddy. With 9:49 left in OT, Gibbs scored a 69-yard touchdown to give the Lions a comeback win, 34-27. So, Joe, what do you think went wrong for the Giants?
Well, the same thing that's gone wrong for them all year. So I guess it's not all Brian Daboll's fault, right? Uh-huh. I mean, this is the fourth time that the Giants have given away, I'll be nice, I won't say choked away, a big lead or a decent-sized lead in the fourth quarter. Now, again, I read this stat. I don't have the exact numbers, but we might have even talked about it a couple of weeks ago on this show. They actually have broken a record. I think 3 times so far this season, before this week. Now, I don't know what the percentages were this week. They had a 90+% chance of winning a game in the fourth quarter. One of them was like a 96% or something, 93, 96, maybe even 99, that Denver game. But they're the only team ever, I guess, at least since they've been keeping track of this, to lose 3 games when they had a 90% or better chance in the fourth quarter to win it. So I don't know what the percentage was here, but they were up by 10 with 12 minutes to go and couldn't hold on to this lead either.
Mm-hmm.
So this one I don't think was as bad a loss as maybe a couple of the other ones. But, and again, rather than just knock one team, let's give credit to the team that came back. I mean, the Lions were in big trouble here, and this is a game that they couldn't lose if they wanted to stay in contention for the division and good playoff position here. So they would have put themselves in a major hole had they lost this game. So give them credit for coming back here. And there was a lot of amazing individual performances here too, on both sides of the ball. I mean, I had a daily fantasy team that featured a guy named Jahmyr Gibbs, who scored me about 58 points in that because he had 219 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. By the way, 45 yards and a touchdown receiving as well. I did not have Amon-Ra St. Brown, but he had 9 catches for 149 yards and a touchdown. Wan'Dale Robinson of the Giants, 9 catches for 156 yards and a touchdown. So some amazing offensive performances here in this game. And it was fun to watch. Now, I was watching, as I often do when the Bills aren't playing, I was watching like NFL Red Zone. So I feel like I get to watch a little bit of all the games. And so this one, especially fourth quarter, was definitely featured a lot on there. As, again, these teams were scoring left and right, especially the Lions late in the game. So, again, credit them for saving themselves here and keeping them in the race here in the NFC. And unfortunately, the Giants, big road problems too. It's bad enough they have a tough schedule, but they are now 0-7 on the road. So just 2-3 at home, which isn't as bad. But all these bad losses that they've had, these fourth quarter chokes, if you want to put it that way. I mean, look at it. Detroit, Dallas, Denver. And I'm blanking on where the other one was.
Chicago.
Wasn't it? Well, was it that? That's the, yeah. So
they were up by 10 with 2 minutes left in the game.
Right. And was that was in Chicago, I believe, too, right?
Yeah.
So all of these on the road meltdowns here. And again, this one maybe not as bad as the other ones, but still you're winning by 10 with, 12 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. These are games you got to win. And again, not all Brian Daboll. And again, this is not all coaching, and those other losses weren't all him. And, we're big Brian Daboll supporters here. But I'll give the Giants, credit for the decision. I mean, when a team loses and breaks a record by losing 3 games that you had a 90% chance to win in the middle of the fourth quarter, somebody's head's got to roll. And I feel like it is justified, even though it's not all Daboll's fault. As I said, it had to happen. So
he had that team going in the right direction, though. And like I said, what do you think of the fact that he actually made the Giants' job now a lot more attractive than it was when he first got there?
He did a lot of things right there that he's not getting credit for. And again, especially us here in Buffalo, we know exactly what he's capable of.
Yeah.
And the offensive genius that he is. And, of course, it's in the back of our minds, I'm sure. Hey, if Brady gets hired somewhere else and there's an offensive coordinator opening, I would love to see Brian Daboll back with the Bills with that.
Yeah.
But he, again, it's not all his fault. And again, I don't fault the Giants either, because again, somebody's got to take the fall. And unfortunately, it's the head guy. But, we'll see what happens with them going forward. I mean, they definitely have made strides. And again, Jackson Dart hasn't played the last few weeks, but you definitely got hope at the quarterback position. And defense, again, besides, the lack of holding leads here, eventually they're going to learn how to do that, and that they're going to continue to grow. So I agree. I think this team is going in the right direction, and unfortunately got to go through some growing pains this year to get there, and
Yeah.
hopefully they learn from all these losses. But again, great win for the Lions, put themselves right in the middle of the division possibility picture here, and giving themselves a chance down the road.
Mm-hmm. Joe, do you really think that firing now former head coach Brian Dable really made a difference? Because I don't think it actually did.
No, it's not going to make a difference. Once they get a chance to look and really hire the guy that they think is right for that job,
Mm-hmm.
I think then maybe it'll make a difference. But it's the season was already gone for them, and just some tough losses there. I think they just had to, again, to satisfy, I don't know, the fan base and to make it look right, and other people higher in the organization, perhaps trying to save jobs, had to do something. And again, who's the guy that always gets blamed for stuff like this? It's the head coach. So I don't fault them. Again, I don't criticize the decision to let him go. I think it had to happen, but it's not like things are going to change overnight, and it's not like Dable was the wrong guy. But now, again, you're a Giants organization. Now, for the next few months here, you do find what you figure is the right guy and for that system and for those players. And, let's try to make it work.
One thing I did notice, though, Joe, what do you think about interim head coach Mike Kafka firing the defensive coordinator Shane Bowen and replacing him with outside linebackers coach Charlie Bolin? And what do you think? You don't usually see that with an interim head coach. I wonder if Kafka is trying, to make a case that he wants to interview for the permanent gig by doing that.
I think that certainly had something to do with it. That's a great point. That's the only reason I could see him doing that. I think he's definitely trying to put his footprint on this organization and trying to be the guy that's guiding the ship going forward.
A lot of Giants fans are saying after that game, even with the losses, they're advocating for him to get the permanent job. They actually think he could do it.
Yeah, and honestly, it surprised me because the Lions were 10.5-point favorites in that game, and I thought that was one of the easiest picks of the week. I thought the Giants would win the Lions. I thought the Lions would win that game by 2 touchdowns at least. And, it was obviously a dogfight, and they were lucky to win it. So, yes, the fact that the Giants showed up and played, again, a Super Bowl contender perhaps in their own backyard as well as they did, and gave themselves that much of a chance to win that game, I certainly think that's a notch in the belt of a prospective head coach there.
Mm-hmm. Now, Joe, I think you and I talked about this in preseason, but do you remember when the Bears Giants game, the Bears Bills game, where Greg Olsen was doing the color commentary, and he said, what you're going to see because of the new kickoff rule is what the Cowboys and what the Giants did here at the end of the game. And the Cowboys did the same exact thing, which we're going to talk to later. Mm-hmm. But what do you think about the Giants and the Cowboys trying this new trend of where it's late in the game and it may be a tie game or you're up by 3, and instead of trying to kick the field goal where you would go up by 6 or you would go up by 3, but you would have to kick it off and the touchback would go at the 35, and instead the Giants went for it, and even though they didn't get it, the Lions still had to drive the length of the field to get that field goal, even though they were only up by 3. And it didn't work for them because they ended up tying the game, but it worked for the Cowboys at the end because they stopped the Eagles and they were able to kick the game-winning field goal. What do you think of that growing trend of teams doing that now as a better way to play field position late in games?
Yeah, why not? Again, there's so many analytics and so much information and data that they have access to that I guess they're looking at that and seeing that's the way to go. It's not always going to work out like it didn't work out for the Giants here,
Yeah.
but those analytical trends, I think we're going to start seeing more of. And again, there's
And
so
they
much.
and go ahead, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. There's so much of that information out there that we're going to see new trends like this all the time based on all that data.
Yeah, and Mike Kafka said during the game, I made the right call based on what the kickoff rule is, and
Mhm.
and he said it was the right call because I at least made them have to drive the length of the field to kick the field goal, rather than if I kicked the field goal, I would have went up by 6, but they would have had more field position to go up by 1. So
Yeah. So I don't have a problem with that either. As long as they're confident in the decision and they have the information to back it up, it's not always going to work out. It's just like anything else in life. If we got to make decisions, and if we feel like we made the right decision, I think we could sleep at night knowing that we did, even though sometimes those decisions don't work out the way we think they should. So I have no problem with that strategy. And again, if they were confident in it, they had the numbers and stuff to back it up, and it just didn't work out. Well, again, I give them credit for trying.
Yeah, but because I did tell you Greg Olsen was the one. If you may have watched that preseason game with the Bears and the Bills, and Greg Olsen was talking about that. Remember, I don't know if you remember that he said the teams were going to do this, and look what happened.
Right. And I don't remember that from the preseason, but yeah, I think I remember you mentioning something along those lines as well.
Yeah, right. I got a little mad at Jonathan Vilma though, because when I was listening to the game, Jonathan Vilma's like, I don't agree with that call.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he understands that they have to do that now, because I don't know if he still thinks the touchback is still at the 25 or the 20, or he forgot that the touchback's at the 35 now. So
yeah, and it depends on the game situation too. If the Giants were up by 6 at that point, and then kicking a field goal would have put them up by 9, for example, then I think it would have been stupid not to go for the field goal, because you kick a field goal there and go up by 9, you put the game away.
right.
But again, here you're only up by 3. So you kick that field goal, you're up by 6. And like you said, Detroit in better field position, which we know they have the full capability to drive and strike quickly.
Yeah.
They're in a better position to score a touchdown, win the game. And I think they certainly would have got more criticism that way. What if he kicks it and then Detroit scores and they win the game by 1? I think you're going to get more criticism there than the way this worked out. Again, it was the right call, and just unfortunately for them, did not work out.
And like I said, because like I said, Joe, in the old days, teams would kick the field goal because the touchback was still at the 20 and the 25, but those days are gone now, and you don't kick. More teams go for it more because of that.
Yeah, and I know you agree with this, but it just adds that much more excitement to the game and more strategy as we saw.
Yeah, that's why I like the kickoff rule. Plus, what do you think? A lot of them are actually. Remember last year the returns went up, but teams were still blasting it out, so the guys got it out to the 30. But what do you think? They moved it to the 35, and you're actually seeing more returns and less touchbacks.
Right. You wouldn't think 5 yards would make that much of a difference, but it does.
Well, no, it does, because here's the thing, though. In the spring football, see, the NFL messed up when they originally did it, because they didn't have it at the 30, but the spring football, the reason why in spring football they were getting more is because it was at the 35.
Right.
So the NFL realized we had to make it where it was at the 35 to actually feel the impact of more returns.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, speaking of Speaking of them boys, let's talk about it, Joe. The 4:00 competition between the 8-2 Philadelphia Eagles, the Birds, versus the 4-5-1 Dallas Cowboys. Them boys at Jerry's World, AT&T Stadium. With 8:45 left in the first quarter, AJ Fantasy Points Brown scored on a 16-yard touchdown to give the Eagles their first lead, 7-0, or as we call him, AJ Geico Brown, like that commercial now. Give them their first lead, 7-0. With 1:02 left in the first quarter, Jalen hurt so good. Come on, Jalen, make it hurt so good. Scrambled for a 7-yard touchdown to bring the score to 14-0. With 11:35 left in the second quarter, Hurts scored his second touchdown of the game on a 1-yard run, increasing the Eagles' lead to 21-0. That's it, Joe, right? Based on Eagles are saying, we're going to party to victory. Let's pop open a bottle of champagne early, another Super Bowl. But let's remember, this is a different Dallas defense now. So with 24 seconds left in the first half, George Slim Pickens caught his 8th touchdown of the year to cut the score to 21-7. With 2:07 left in the third quarter, Brian Spanford scored on a 7-play, 89-yard drive to bring the score to 21-14 Philly. With 11:42 left in the fourth quarter, Dak Prescott ran it in for an 8-yard touchdown to tie the score at 21-all, looking like Josh Allen on that play.
Right.
You saw it. With 3 seconds left in the game, Brandon Aubrey, also from spring football, kicked a 42-yard field goal, and he missed one earlier in the game. Let's remember that. But he made it, though. He kicked a 42-yard field goal to seal the Cowboys' ring, bringing the final score to 24-21. So, Joe, did you ever think that the Cowboys would come back from a 21-0 deficit to beat the Eagles 24-21?
Believe it or not, I'm going to say yes. I just had a feeling throughout this game when they were getting slaughtered in the first half. I said, why do I feel like this game is not over? You know, I thought the Cowboys would keep this game close. Now, I wasn't sure if they were going to win it. They were 3.5-point underdogs, which I had them as you know, with the 3.5 points. So I thought, I said, you know what? I think they're going to lose this game by a field goal before the game started. And even when they're down 21-0, I'm like, I don't know. I just get the feeling that this game's not over. And, you know, gradually they came back and obviously, you know, the Eagles were very helpful at some points of the game in allowing them to do that. But, I mean, they never gave up. Now, it's funny because, Jamie, certain things happen here on this podcast, and I mean this in a positive way. Every time Aubrey comes up to kick a field goal, I hear your voice ringing in my head, Aubrey. You know, so, and like I said, I mean that in a positive way. So that's awesome. Every time he comes up, and I see him kick, I was like, oh, here he goes. So the shocking thing was that he missed one because that doesn't happen very often. But, you know, Dak Prescott was looking very Josh Allen-like this entire game. I mean, 354 yards total passing, you know, 2 touchdown passes. And other performances, again, now the Eagles offense, you got to give them credit, at least in the first half of the game. They've gotten a lot of criticism for, you know, their offense not what it was, and they're kind of fighting with each other and stuff like that. But, you know, minus maybe Saquon Barkley, who only had 22 yards rushing. Now, he did have 52 yards receiving. You know, so 74 total. That, you know, he still hasn't gotten it going. But, you know, A.J. Brown played an A.J. Brown type game, 110 yards with a touchdown. Devontae Smith had, you know, like 90 yards. So, you know, they were definitely a big part of the offense, like they haven't been for much of the year. You know, you were talking about George Slim Pickens here. He had like 150 yards receiving. And, you know, he keeps doing that. CD is going to be thrown to the lambs here. Not that he had a bad game either, because he had 70 yards or 75 yards, I think. So, just a great comeback that they never panicked here, the Cowboys. And I don't know why, but like I said, not that I thought they were going to win the game, because I still thought they were going to lose by a field goal. But the fact that Dallas came back, even when they were down, I said, this game is not over. The stadium, there's a billion fans in that stadium, and it's one of the loudest football crowds I've heard all year as they were making this comeback. So it was a fun game to watch. By that time, I mean, we had some company over, so I had shut off Red Zone and was watching that game specifically. That's the game we got in this area here. And it was lots of fun to watch and nice to see. And, definitely a good win for the Cowboys, putting themselves right in that playoff picture. And, 5-1 now. Eagles, tough loss. It's definitely a game they could have easily won, especially being up 21-0. But I still think they're in very good shape at 8-3, and still in control of the division, even though they lost to their closest divisional rival here this year. They still have a strong hold on that division, and I'd be shocked if they did not win that division, and still a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. But Joe, here's what I don't know. Julian Edelman said this on Fox NFL Kickoff. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know this, but the Eagles haven't had one game all year where they've scored 30 points. Mm-hmm. And he said the Cowboys have. So he said if the defense can hold the Eagles to under 30 points, they would win the game.
Right.
And voila, that happened. So what did you think about the Cowboys holding the Eagles to under 30 points in the game again this season? Think about it. The Eagles are 8-3, and they're supposed to be this big machine on offense, but they can't score 30 points in any game. What do you think of that?
Yeah, you made a comment earlier in the show talking about the Cowboys defense coming back here and getting things together. And certainly that was the case. And that was even the case like within the game. I mean, they were getting blown out of the water here, 21 quick points by the Eagles, and kind of like representing the earlier in the season of the Cowboys. Everybody was scoring at will against them. And then all of a sudden just completely clamped down in the second half and, held the Eagles scoreless. And that, again, representing the second half of this NFL season where, like you said, Dallas getting their defense together at the right time here and, could definitely help them make some noise here going forward.
Yeah, but Joe, don't forget, we play the Eagles. And here's the thing. I wonder if that's going to be a blueprint, again, if we hold them under to 30 points and Josh Allen plays well, we'll beat them,
Yeah. Now, one thing I was going to say, too, to go back to the Cowboys a second, a lot depends on where they're playing. They're just so much different at home. If this game was in Philadelphia and they were down 21-0, there's a good chance they would have lost it like 42-7. But the fact that they play so much better at home in Dallas, I think makes a big difference. So a lot of it for the Cowboys depends on where the game's being played. But yeah, going back to the Eagles to answer your question that you just asked here, I totally agree. I think if the Bills defense comes together and they could make a solid defensive effort against this team, they have a great chance to beat them.
Yeah, because think about it. It's the same thing with the Bills. We're 7-4 and the Eagles are 7-3 or 8-3, but
8-3.
we've still had games where we've scored 30 points. The Eagles haven't, and they're 8-3 all year.
Right.
So, but we've shown we can put up 30 points, even though we've been inconsistent all year,
I agree.
So, that's why it'll be an interesting game. But I think that's funny, though. I wonder, are the Eagles the first team, you think, to be 8-3 and every single game, whether they've won or lost, they haven't scored 30 points? I wonder if they're the first team in modern day history to actually have that record, you think?
I would doubt it. I don't know. So I'm only guessing right now. But there's been some really good defensive juggernauts that were not known for their offense that won games with their defense. So I'm sure they're not the only team, even in modern day NFL, where scoring is way up. I would still think there's been other teams, that don't score big points, but just have great defenses and, win games that way.
Right. Now turning our attention to we've been waiting all day for Sunday night. Thank you, Carrie Underwood. You're a treasure for singing that. Right. Between the 6-4 Tampa Bay Bucks taking on the 8-2 LA Rams at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. Wait, Joe, if they're the Santa Clara 49ers, are they the Inglewood Rams or the LA Rams?
You could Inglewood is basically in Los Angeles.
It's a suburb. Santa Clara,
I know it's a suburb, but that's like
it's like it's like Orchard Park.
That's what Buffalo. I was just about to say. It's about as far from downtown Los Angeles as Orchard Park is from downtown Buffalo, whereas Santa Clara is like an hour plus, away.
Yeah. The Orchard Park Bills. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway.
Right. Right. It's about the same distance from my limited LA geography. I think it's about that distance. Yeah. So that's why I still consider them Los Angeles.
And we consider the Bills Buffalo, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. With 4:32 left in the first quarter, Davante Adams, caught a 1-yard touchdown pass from Matthew Stafford to give the Rams the lead 7-0. With 1:52 left in the first quarter, not Kevin Durant, that's the NBA, but the NFL's Kobe Durant took a 50-yard interception to the house to increase the Rams lead to 14-0. With 10:46 left in the second, Colby, not Kobe, I had to enunciate there, Parkinson, caught a 5-yard pass from Stafford to bring the score to 21-0 Rams.
So all these guys getting 6-pointers instead of 3-pointers.
Yep. With 5:03 left in the second, Taz Johnson caught a 14-yard pass from Baker Mayfield, cutting the lead to 21-7. With 3:10 left in the half, Adams, caught his second touchdown of the game, this time for 24 yards, increasing the Rams' lead to 28-7. With 1:02 left in the half, Harrison Mavis kicked a 40-yard field goal, ending the half at 31-7 Rams. With 13:55 left in the fourth, Mavis kicked his second field goal of the game, this time for 52 yards, closing out the game at 34-7. So, Joe, what do you think of the Rams' dominance in the NFC Conference? And is this their best chance to win a Super Bowl since the 1999 Greatest Show on Turf?
Definitely. I was a little disappointed in this game because I thought Tampa Bay would come out strong and possibly even win this game. They didn't have a chance from the start, and but when my 8th grade students are smart enough to know that, hey, nobody is touching Davante Adams here, and he's basically scoring at will or making big plays at will on certain plays. My 8th grade students can figure it out. Why can't the Tampa Bay Buccaneers figure it out? So, great game there. Now, I've heard a lot of talk about Matthew Stafford as a potential MVP candidate. And I kind of shoot it off. I was like, there's probably other people there that have a better chance of winning the MVP and that I would consider better candidates. I may start listening at this point because Matthew Stafford played a dominant game here, 273 yards, 3 touchdowns, like 123 quarterback rating here. So maybe I'm starting to listen because I'm going to save this for another podcast, but I have right now, if I was to do a list of power ratings, which we will a little bit later on. Spoiler alert, I got the Rams number 1. And this kind of put them there. So to answer your question, is this their best chance to win a Super Bowl since they won it a few years ago? I would say definitely.
Oh, I forgot a few years ago. I said the greatest show on turf. I'm sorry. I forgot about a couple of years ago. Wow.
Right. So
I said the greatest show on turf. I feel like I insulted this organization. Oh my God.
And that went right over my head. I wasn't listening because I was just assuming you were talking about 2021 or whenever it was that
the greatest show on turf, 1999.
That was way back. Yes. I wasn't even paying attention. I said, you said it. I was like, oh yeah, 2021. Okay. But
I forgot they won in 2021.
Right. But definitely a best chance since then. And this is probably the best team that they've had. I think this is better than the 21 team. So you want to talk about the greatest show on turf? I think this is the best team they've had since then.
That's where I was going with it, Joe. I think I may have not explained it right. I should have said it like that.
That's a valid point. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah. Well, don't forget Matthew Stafford. If he wins MVP, he'll have 2 things. He'll have an MVP, and he's got that trophy wife Kelly of his too.
That's right.
Anyway, yeah, she's a good one. Anyway, now on to the last but not least. Oh, and you also have to account for this game. Baker Mayfield got hurt, and Teddy Bridgewater came in. That didn't help either. But
no, they didn't have a chance anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, now on to the last but not least of the Week 12 games of the league. The 6-5 Carolina Panthers visiting the 7-4 San Francisco 49ers at Levi Stadium on Monday Night Football with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. With 6:17 left in the first, Jawan Jennings caught a 12-yard pass from Brock Purdy good to bring the score to 7-0 San Francisco. With 2:28 left in the half, not Ryan Fitzpatrick, not Larry Fitzgerald, but Ryan Fitzgerald kicked a 25-yard field goal to increase the 49ers lead to 10-0. With 1 minute left in the quarter, Matt Gay kicked a 47-yard field goal to cut the lead to 10-3 at the end of the first half. With 4:42 left in the third, Christian run CMC to the end zone. Christian McCaffrey ran it in for a 12-yard touchdown, increasing their lead to 17-3. With 49 seconds left in the third quarter, Ted McMillan caught a 9-yard touchdown from Bryce. Forever young, I want to be forever young. But the 2-point conversion failed, bringing the score to 17-9. With 9:29 left in the fourth, Gay sealed the win with a 29-yard field goal to bring the final score to 20-9. So, Joe, what do you think about San Francisco executing their game plan for another big win over the Carolina Panthers?
Yeah, this one was a little disappointing for me, too. I thought Carolina would keep it closer, and they were never really in this game. I mean, I didn't think they would beat the 49ers, but I thought it would be closer. And we were talking about the Bills being in a very giving spirit, this holiday season. Oh, my goodness. You talked about, Fitzpatrick there with the big beard. Where was Brock Purdy's Santa Claus beard? Because he was in a very generous spirit giving that ball away. 3 interceptions and just giving gifts away to Carolina like it was nothing. So he's very lucky that it didn't cost him more than it did. So, but just a solid team effort otherwise for the 49ers. And again, CMC playing like CMC, doing his things. He basically led the offense here because I'm not going to give too much credit to Purdy with 3 interceptions. But, yeah, just business as usual for Santa Clara. And they got another win and getting themselves closer to the playoffs. Now, I picked them to win this division earlier in the year. In the beginning of the year before the season started, I picked the 49ers. Now, I didn't think that the Rams and Seahawks would be as good as they are. So at this point, I'm not so sure the 49ers win this division. I don't think they will. But certainly at 8-4, I mean, they're making a playoff case here and getting themselves in there. So
right now they're in third place though, Joe, but they would have a wild card berth if they got in. They would be
and we talked about this in the beginning of the season, and us and other people on our network here too. We're saying that it's very possible that the NFC West would have 3 teams in the playoffs. And now, as long as these teams continue to play like they've been playing, I really think it's going to happen. I think we're going to have 3 teams from that division in the NFC playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, here's the thing, though, too. It's going to be interesting. I'm not as concerned, I think, with the Rams and the 49ers because even though, like I said, the Rams are winning the division and the Niners are in third. Both teams have done it. Like, they've been in the playoffs. The one thing I'm worried about with Seattle, even though they're in second, I feel like they're not one of those teams yet because, like I said, like, even though obviously, they won with Pete Carroll and the Legion of Boom, but they haven't done it with Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold hasn't really done it yet. That's the thing.
Right. Well, that remains to be seen. But at least regular season, I think they'll end up in second in that division.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Joe, what do you think about Carolina missing out on a golden opportunity to take over first place in the NFC South over Tampa? Because Tampa was 6-5, and I think both teams were 6-5 because Tampa already lost. And had Carolina won, they would have been 7-5, which means they would have been a half a game ahead in first place in the NFC South. But now they're ahead. Instead, they lose, and now they're a half a game out of first place.
Yeah, and I don't think this is a bad loss for them. I mean, Santa Clara is not an easy place to play. The 49ers are a very good team. So I don't think there's any shame in a loss like this. I don't think you could say, oh, this is a game that Carolina definitely should have won. I don't think so. I didn't think they were going to win this game anyway. So it's not a bad loss. Of course, like you said, it is an opportunity loss, though, and they could be in first place right now had they been able to pull this game out. But, I mean, if you're a Panthers fan, if I was a Panthers fan and somebody told me after week 12 that I'm going to be, half a game out of first place in the division, I would have said, sign me up, because I still think Tampa's the class of that division. But, I mean, the fact that Carolina's in the mix, especially after the bad start that they got off to, that's still, I think you got reason for optimism there. And again, I would have told you in the beginning of the season, hey, I'll take it. Now let's see, if they can keep fighting and maybe steal it. Who knows?
Yeah, Dave Canales, I'm going to say it. That looks like a sneaky good hire now after last year.
Right. They're playing hard every game. And again, they've had some ugly losses, but they've had some good wins too. And again, this one I don't call an ugly loss. I wouldn't have expected them to win the game anyway.
So, anyway, so wow, it looks like we come to the end of our show. So, Joe, where can we find you on the social media world on Tuesday, November 25th, 2025, 2 days before Thanksgiving?
Wow. And 1 month before another particular holiday. So yeah, definitely time is moving fast, isn't it? We're going to be talking about 2026 real soon. But anyway, Joe Dell Sports, Twitter, X, this program, open mic on this network a bunch of times as well. So you can find me in those places.
Yep. Anyway, you can find me, yours truly, at Bill's Chat 1, at Bill's Mafia Chat, and also at Jamie Malloy, the unbiased journalist, and DJ Dogtags, and theforkball.com, where I write about all sports. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and ring the bell for notifications, and make sure you click all notifications. And for more content on Driving to the Top Productions, please visit our YouTube page, Twitch stream, Facebook stream, X stream, wherever you get your podcasts. And we have a program note. We will be off next Tuesday, December 2nd, due to a scheduling conflict, but we will be back on Tuesday, December 9th at 8 o'clock p.m. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening. And remember, folks, let's see if every team in the NFL can hold the Eagles to under 30 points. Congratulations goes out to Shedeur Sanders for winning his first NFL game with the Browns and for being the first Cleveland Brown quarterback in 30 years to win his debut, a feat that Baker never even did. Wow. No offense to Baker, but still. Let's see if the offensive line does a better job this week of protecting Josh Allen, our superstar quarterback. And to quote our friend Chris Berman, nobody circles the wagons, even when they're 7-4, even when the offensive line gives up 8 sacks to Josh Allen, and even when they're not winning the division, they're looking up to the 10-2 New England Patriots, like the Buffalo Bills. See you next week, folks, and happy Thanksgiving.
Have a great week. Happy Thanksgiving.